All right, so the job interview first. Does anybody have an upcoming job interview? Please put it in the chat. No,
Okay,
yes.
this is your opportunity to participate. I do see one answer. Come on, I know you have an answer. So Sandra, I do see a couple of people saying no. There was, I think, one yes.
Cool.
I'm getting a not yet there. So, oh, someone has an interview today at 2. How exciting!
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Cool. If you have an interview or if you've had an interview, you need to congratulate yourself and you need to say good job because your resume did what it needed to do. Yeah, great. Your resume did what it was supposed to do. Your sole purpose of your resume is to get you an interview. Even a phone interview is worth celebrating. Yep. So please take a moment to congratulate yourself, to celebrate, because it's a big deal. All the blood, sweat, and tears that you did with your resume paid off because that's the sole purpose of the resume is to get you a job interview. So now we're here to help you shine at that interview. Excuse me. And it doesn't start at the day of the interview. It starts before the interview. And it's really important to be prepared, right? Research the employer, which you probably did a little bit before you applied, but now you want to even go deeper. Google them, see if they've come up in any news stories, examine closely their company website, see what their presence is like on LinkedIn, see if you know anybody who works there that you can talk to, and then specifically know what their mission statement is, and review the job posting. What skills did they specifically ask for in the job posting? Check your attitude and make sure that you make a good impression. When you're looking at the skills that are needed, my suggestion is to either do it in a word processing format or to do it on a piece of paper. Fold the piece of paper in half on the left-hand side, that column, write all the skills that are asked for in the job posting, both the required and the preferred. And sometimes you have to take apart a bullet point because it might list more than one skill. And then in the right-hand column, you should list how you meet that skill. And not only what job you were in that met that skill, but a story that will explain how you use that skill and what the results were. Just like you had accomplishment statements on your resume, you need to have accomplishment statements when you're answering interview questions. They don't only want to know that, yay, you have the skill, because you wouldn't be here if we didn't think you had it. But now we need to know how you use that skill and what were the results of you using that skill. They're checking to make sure you really have those skills, but they're also checking how you present. What is your attitude? Are you going to be a good fit for the team? So it's a step that is not worth skipping. You want to come to your job interview prepared. There are many, many, many types of interviews, and here are some of them. The phone screening is usually done by HR. It's usually to double check to make sure that you have the skills. Please keep in mind that it's okay to say, this is not a good time. Can we schedule this? Because you want to be prepared, even for a phone screening. You want to have the job posting in front of you. You want to have your resume that you submitted, your cover letter. If you've submitted any other documentations, you want to review all of that before you have your phone screening. It's perfectly okay to say, this is not a good time. Can we schedule this for later this week? Or maybe even later today. But don't ever feel that you have to do the phone screening the moment that they call you, because you want to research the company, right? You want to review what you said in your resume. You need to review the job posting, because every answer to every question should reflect back on what they're looking for. It should demonstrate how you really are qualified for the job. Most in-person screenings are now, at least the first interview and sometimes the second, are done virtually. You want to make sure that your background is good. You want to make sure that you present well. You want to make sure that you're dressed top to bottom as if you're going to be in person. I help co-facilitate a job club, and we had a session on interviewing, and one of the people in the job club, one of the participants, said he had a virtual interview where he was asked to stand up. They wanted to see that he was dressed top to bottom as if he was at an in-person interview. So you never know. You just never, ever know what you're going to be asked, or if maybe you accidentally have to stand up. So you make sure that you're dressed as if you were in person. Selection interview are sometimes in person. Behavioral interviews is the type of question that they ask, and that can be an in-person, a telephone, a selection. They're based on questions that try to get at how you would behave in certain situations. Work sample could be if you're applying for a training job, they have you come in and teach coworkers as if you were teaching their clients. It might be if you're looking to do a welding job, what you're welding they come in and have you weld. A peer or a group interview. A group interview might be that you would be one of three people who are applying for the job, and they interview you all at the same time. A peer interview might be a lunch. After a in-person screening, you go out to have lunch. The interview is from the moment you step on campus to the moment you leave. You are interviewed the whole time, everything you do and say. So this will answer some of what do you wear to an interview, because 80% of communication is nonverbal. And part of that nonverbal is how you dress. It's not only the tone of your voice. It's not only your facial expressions or your gestures, but it's how you dress. And you want to send good signals, right? You want to finish strong, and we'll talk about that at the end. You're going to want to follow up, and you're going to want to show and share your skills. Lana?
Hi. I know that you did absolutely answer this question. I just want to recognize the questions directly. A couple of people are asking about what to wear during the interview, and then someone directly asked, do we still wear ties? And I think you already spoke to what we would do during a video interview. You would want to be able to stand up. Like I could stand up now and I would still be dressed, but no, you want to be able to, I'm like really tempted to stand up, but no. So that's very important, as you mentioned, to stand up. But as far as the what you wear to the interview is going to depend on what type of interview you're having. And somebody did say professional. So I'm saying if you are, most cases, if someone identifies themselves as male, a lot of times you would be able to wear a suit and a tie for more professional levels. If you were interviewing for construction, of course, that will be slightly different. You may be able to wear casual because it's definitely going to be what type of interview you have. So yes, you may wear a tie if you're interviewing for a professional type of job. Construction, maybe not a tie and maybe not. If you want to wear a suit jacket, you could, but you can certainly dress a little bit different than if it was for a professional. Yes, you can wear a tie. So to answer that question. All right.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's also where your research comes in. The company will, you'll get a view of the company culture, right? And so if nobody's wearing a tie on the website, or if you know people who work there and you ask what the company culture is, you always want to dress just a little bit better. So maybe not a tie, but a button-down shirt or a collared shirt with a jacket would be good. You never want to wear loud or unusual colors because that will communicate to you. You never want to wear loud jewelry or loud makeup. You never want to have a loud, in quotes, hairstyle, because you want people to be focusing on your answers, your skills, and what you personally can bring to the job, not how you look and how they filter how you look, what they bring to it. So you want to make sure that you don't wear a bright orange, day-glow orange shirt or dress. Simple is the best. Keep it simple, sister. The KISS theory works both in your answers to interview questions and how you show up. It's really important that you minimize anything that they could use to judge you by. And that includes, it's really important for the background of your interview, if it's a virtual interview, that it's plain. Sometimes I take the picture off the wall that's by my dining room table. I turn my table around so I can sit with my back to the plain wall, and that's all they see is the color of the wall behind me. There's no artwork or images that they can use to judge me. And sometimes we give away answers to questions that they're not allowed to ask. You might have a picture of your family behind you that has children in it. Then they know that you have kids. They can't ask you that question, right? There might be a religious symbol behind you, and then they know or think they know what your religion is, but they can't ask you that question. There might be other images behind you that give away political affiliations, membership into clubs or organizations, things that people might negatively judge you by or have no business knowing. So you want to minimize all of that in an interview. So plain, simple background, plain, simple dress. Try to find out the company culture and dress a little bit above, but not super dressed up. We'll answer that question about culture and pay rate at the end. So just you want to minimize, because communication is comprehensive. It's everything about you, and you want to be able to focus on your awesome skills and your awesome accomplishments. So there are many ways of handling tough questions, and one of them is called the sandwich method, right? So if you think about a sandwich, you have the top slice of the bread, which is the situation, the meat or the veggies, that's the action, and the bottom slice is the results. But you don't want to forget the condiments. And the condiment is how you tie all of this together so you don't have a dry sandwich. So it's not just one statement about the situation, one statement about the action, and one statement about the results. You want to share You want to move them together. People, our brains are hardwired to remember stories. And anytime you can make an answer a story, it will be more memorable. And the reason to start with a positive and end with a positive is because we remember more what came at the beginning and what came at the end of the answer. So, and you can anticipate these questions, you can be prepared, always be positive and honest, keep it brief, and focus on your skills. You never ever want to lie, but you never ever want to throw anybody under the bus. If you are asked, please describe when you had to work with a difficult coworker. That goes from difficult to a difference of opinion. You never ever want to say that somebody was awful or stupid or lazy. You never want to bring in any negative vibes into the interview. You want to keep it all above board and positive and show that you can work in difficult situations. So if I was using the sandwich method to answer handling a tough question, I would say, working with a difficult coworker, I would say, I was working on this project of planning job fairs for my office. And one of the people on the team and I had a difference of an opinion on the type of employers and resources that we should highlight each month. After doing market research into the market, what was needed for the market in the way of jobs, we were able to come to a consensus on who to highlight in the next 3 job fairs, right? So the situation was planning the job fair. The action was doing market research, and then we came to a solution on who we would highlight in the next 3 months in our job fairs. You never ever want to be negative in a job interview. Are there any questions?
No, there's no questions. One question is in there, but it's something that you already aforementioned you're going to address later. So no additional questions at this time.
Okay, so I want to go back to the type of interviews, and I want to talk about something really important for the in-person interviews before we go on to the next way of answering questions. Never, ever, ever wear scent, perfume, aftershave. A colleague of ours has a really great story when he worked for the state higher ed at Mankato State. He was interviewing somebody who wore a perfume that had roses in it, and he was highly, highly allergic to roses. This person didn't know it, but she came in wearing perfume that had a rose scent to it. He spent the whole interview working on not sneezing on her and not sneezing on the other people on the panel. He barely remembered anything about their interview except the fact that he felt awful by the end. So you never, ever, ever want to include any scent. And I know that that's hard nowadays because my hair products have scents in them. My soap has a scent to it. But you just want to be really cognizant that there are people out there who have allergic reactions to different scents, or who just can't tolerate them. Also, you want to remember that from the moment you get to an interview to the moment you leave an interview, you are being watched. One of our colleagues always checked with the receptionist after they interviewed. They worked for a private company, And they interviewed this guy who was just awesome. Great skills, perfect fit, interview well, and he was just, he would have been the candidate for the job. After the interview, she went out and talked to the receptionist. And the receptionist said, "Oh my God, he was sitting here in the reception in the waiting room on his phone, screaming at somebody. I couldn't believe how harsh he was with them. I don't know what the conversation was about, but he was really riled up and very negative to whoever was on the other end." Well, needless to say, that person did not get the job. My advice, if you at all possible, put your phone, take your phone and put it on airplane mode or turn it off unless you have to be in touch. And I would take off any watches that you have. My watch is hooked to my phone and it vibrates. And even if I don't consciously think about it, I turn the phone and look at it. It's a Pavlovian response. I have been trained by my watch and my phone to look at it because there might be something that I need to react to. You want your full attention to be on the interview. You do not want the attention on to be on your phone. You also might want to practice driving to where you're going to, especially nowadays if you live in the Twin Cities. There's construction everywhere. I would try to drive to the place at the same time on the same day that you have your interview, if that's at all possible, and to time it. You, for a virtual interview, and Lana and I disagree with this, you don't want to be more than 5 minutes early. Lana, what is your take on that?
I recommend 15, but it's just
Yeah,
it's
so
your option.
yeah, so there's a difference in opinion, and just like with everything, there's difference of opinion. If you do it 5 minutes before, you make sure you check all your technology ahead of time, even with, if possible, with a friend. If you do not have the bandwidth to be able to show up both audio and visual without interruptions or cutting in and out, in the Twin City area, there are study rooms at libraries that you can reserve. Library bandwidth is very large, so you don't need to be worried about cutting in and out. You also don't have to worry about being interrupted. You need, when you do a virtual interview, to be in a place where nobody's going to be knocking on the door. Your cat isn't going to walk past the screen, right? Someone's not going to be screaming or having the radio on full blast or the TV full blast. I once had an interview where I live in a townhouse association, and that was the day for the leaf blowers to be cleaning off the area around my unit. I had to excuse myself, go into a bathroom with a plain wall, and sit in there so it was quiet. I have no control over that, right? But you need to control as much of your environment as you can. And you need to be as prepped as you can. And prepping knows where you're going to park, how much it's going to cost. Do they take credit cards or cash? How do I get into the building? Right? You need to prep all of that for an in-person interview. Yes, Lana?
Yes, I do want to just mention that there's some questions there all around interview questions to make sure that they understand that they will be addressed. And then someone has their hand up. If you could please put the information in the chat, I will grab it. Thank you.
And yes, wear deodorant. There were a bunch of questions about deodorant. And if your deodorant has a high scent to it, you can buy scentless deodorant. But virtual or in person, it's good to wear deodorant. All right, so another way you can answer questions is STAR, which is very similar to the sandwich method. It just has an extra word. So you state the situation. You state the task that you were asked to do. You state the action that you did to accomplish that task. and you state the results. The most important part of this answer or any answer is your action and the results. That's where you spend the most time because that's what you use to sell yourself. And every action, every answer to any interview question should always circle back to the job description. They asked for this task. How does this example that you're giving circle back to showing that you can work on this task? What was the question that just popped up?
It was a direct question to us, to one of the participants.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So here are some questions that you might be asked. Those of you who have been interviewed, how many of you have been asked, tell me about yourself? Just say yes or no in the chat. So obviously it's a question that's asked. When they ask that question, they're not asking you for, oh, I'm the oldest of 6. My mother died when I was 12. I helped raise my siblings. I worked hard and paid my own way through college, and I'm here because of my own perseverance. They want you to tell them something that's relative to the job posting and the company, right? Tell me about yourself. I have 10 plus years of training experience, working extensively with subject matter experts, delivering a wide variety of well-received classes that have given results to the business by improving productivity, helping out of work people get jobs. So you always want to relate it back to the job posting. Why are you interested in working for this company? That's where your research comes in. What is their mission statement? Saying that I need a job and the salary range was what I'm looking for is not an answer. One of our colleagues in one of her job interviews stated, I really love the mission of this company, the fact that they believe in treating their customers as the first priority. And also they also believe that the staff or the employees of the company are also like customers and they also need to be treated well. That really rang true to me, and I would love to be part of an organization like that. What is your major weakness? You could answer that with the sandwich method. You could answer it with the star method. I would answer that if we go back. So let's go back to the sandwich method. I think I'll do the star. Okay, so what is one of your weaknesses? I always felt was working. I always met deadlines, but they were rushed. And my task for myself was, how do I get that? How do I meet deadlines so that I don't feel rushed? And one of the classes I taught, we did a survey, an assessment called True Color. And I found out that I was green, and green people love research. And that was true for me. I can't read enough books. I can't have enough interviews. I can't get enough knowledge in order to get whatever my assignment or task is done. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, there's the deadline. What I realized was I need to have 2 deadlines. My first deadline is stop doing research. That doesn't mean I'm not taking in new information. I'm just not actively seeking it. I have to make a decision and figure out what to do based on what I know. And the result of doing that with the 2 deadlines, one to stop research and the actual deadline, is that going forward, I got all my tasks done before the deadline, making life easier for me, my team, and the business. So, see how you can use things like that to help you out. The same thing when you're talking about your strengths, they should always circle back to the job posting. Always, anytime you answer a question, it should go back to the job posting. So I want to share something with you. Another way you can prep for your job interview is to use ChatGPT. It's just one of the AI apps out there that offer it free. The caveat here is you never ever take it at face value. You always remember that it's your voice that they're looking for, not ChatGPT. And it's just for prep. It's not for questions verbatim. So I'm going to take a job posting. And I'm going to say, what generate questions I would be asked at an interview for this position. And then I just paste in the job posting. And it's doing it in German. Holy buckets. Yeah, minus the German. I have no idea why it did that. All right. They might not ask you any of these questions, but at least you will have thought about them, and thinking about them might help you also answer other questions that are asked because it's prep. And sometimes just thinking about stuff helps. You could say, any additional questions based on my resume? And then put in your resume. Oh, it didn't take the question. Oh, it did. All right, it's not cooperating, but those are things that you can do. So, and I had, if don't raise your hand, put your, oh, wait, it's working, folks. It just took a bit. So it's giving me other questions. Wow, that took a long time. And this little copy, you can copy these, put them in a Word document, and practice them. Write them out, say them out loud, the answers. It's just a way to think. But each answer to any question that you do to prep for an interview should always circle back to the posting. How do you demonstrate the skills that they're asking for? You want, in most interviews, you can start a conversation, right? When you interview for the state and a lot of government organizations, there's a panel, they have a set group of questions, they alternate asking you those questions. They don't ask you questions about your responses. So you just have to be able to pretend that you're having a conversation. And then you're scored on each answer to each question. But most of the time for business and private organizations, it's a conversation. You answer a question. They might ask you some details about your answer. You don't know if that's going to happen, and you want to make sure that you answer as fully as you can the first time when you're answering it. You also want to keep it simple. You do not want to give them any information that they can't ask on their own, right? So tell me about yourself. When I said I had 10 plus years of training experience, I actually have 25 plus years, but that would give away my age, which they could probably guess based on my white hair. But I don't need to help them with that, right? I don't need to help them with that. Make sure that you keep your answers simple, to the point, and to demonstrate specifically your skills as relevant to the job posting. Some of us might be worried about being overqualified for a job, and we can do that. We can give away that information by spouting off all types of skills and experience and knowledge and training that we've gotten through our 25 years of experience that are not called for in the job posting. And so you're telling them, if you might not have done that in your resume, you're telling them that you might get bored with this job because this job is not asking for that. You might be able to apply it once you get the job, but you don't need to let them know about that up front. It's not lying. It's just you are selling yourself to the job posting. Lana, were there some questions that I should answer before I go on?
I have a question, if I may.
Oh, please.
So it's very exciting to know about Chat GPT. That I want to know how many people, please put in the chat, know what Chat GPT is. Put in the chat if you heard of it or you've used it. Please indicate that in the chat. I'm looking for your answers real quick here. I just want to see here. Okay. 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 We do have a couple of people, some people who don't know what about it. So, and some people said they haven't used it. A lot of people saying they've heard about it. So for those of us who have not used it or who have not heard about it, it's an artificial intelligence that affords you the opportunity to ask questions, you input information, and it gives you information back. So, and you could just Google Chat GPT. It's one of the original people, manufacturers of it is called Open AI. Because I thought it was EYE, but it's actually Open I. So just the letter I or something like that. So you could definitely go online and get more information about that. And I would recommend, if you're going to use Chat GPT, to not only ask for the questions, but ask for the answers, because that's what I did. It gives you the questions and the answers. So keep that if you decide to use that.
Oh,
Yeah, you can put in the questions and the answer. I'm not going to share my screen because I'm not teaching, but you can
let's
do
try it.
uh, the questions and the answers. I
Let's,
did it. I
let's
did it already.
no,
So yeah,
no.
go ahead. If you go in there and you put in there interview questions and answers, it does give you both. So if you, okay, thank you. I see somebody else that said they've seen it. So if you're gonna use it, go ahead and ask for the questions and the answers. I did try it just this now when she was talking, and it did give me the most common questions, which was tell me about yourself, what do you want, why do you want to work here, and things of that nature. And then I tried it again, and it gave me the questions with the answers. Tell me about yourself, why do you want to work here? It gave me those same questions, but they gave me the answers. See, it's giving you answers there.
Yeah, but remember, this is not my voice, right?
Right, right.
And so you don't ever want to seem like you're reading from a script.
Don't
And
do
some
that.
of the information that they pulled as examples might not be right. So, like, how does it know that I had a 25% increase in client satisfaction over the next 6 months, right? So, if that's not real, don't say it just because an artificial intelligence source told you to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one good example about that. There was a lawyer. This is not funny. There was a lawyer, he used this Chat GPT, and he used it for his briefs. You know how lawyers have to report those briefs to people. And he actually got fined. I think he got disbarred because he didn't even read it. So the fine, so when you're a lawyer and you're doing whatever you do with your case, and you're giving all this information to the judge to go over, I forget what it's called. I'm just gonna call them briefings, but it's called something else. Depositions, whatever the technical term is that's escaping me right now. And he turned it in, but he didn't even proofread it. So some of the findings that he gave were not factual. So he actually lost his law degree. You can't use it if you're an attorney or you're doing a project. If you're using this, make sure that, as aforementioned by Sandra, that information is not always factual. So be careful if you decide to use this.
Right. And make sure it's your voice, right? You're there. And if it sounds like you're reading from a teleprompter, they'll know, because people know that this is a tool in the job search process, and they'll know that you're reading something. So always make it you. Always check all the facts. But it's a great structure. It's a great resource. Um, and it's a great opinion, right? So you can use different artificial intelligence sources, put in the same information, and get different results. But it's a tool. It's one tool of many. And maybe it's worth taking this information, making an appointment at your career force office, your local career force, and practicing. Saying, working with somebody in person or virtually, sharing with them the posting and your job, the resume and cover letter you submitted, and then saying, these are the questions ChatGPT gave me. Can you help me practice them? The chances are that you won't necessarily be asked these questions specifically, but you will have thought about it. If creative problem solving was one of the skills that was listed in the posting, it might be some different. Describe a challenging situation that you faced in your role and how you used. It might be, describe a challenging person that you dealt with and how you use creative problem solving to solve it. But you will have started to think through, and you have started to accumulate stories, because our brain is hardwired to remember stories. So any information that you want to share, try hard to put it in a story, either as a star answer or a sandwich, a beginning, a middle, and end. Start positive, end positive, spend a little bit of time on the negative, highlight your results, highlight your problem solving skills. Always, always relate back to the job posting and always have energy. You have to remember you got this interview because they felt you were qualified for the job based on what you said in the resume. Now they're looking for a team member. And how many people out there have had a job where they've worked with somebody who's barely shows up, has no energy, has a negative attitude, is not what you would call a team player, right? So I don't think any of us haven't, right? And how was it working with that person? Would you want that person on your team, right? Would you want to work with somebody like that? No, right. You don't want to come across that way in your job interview. You want to come across like, yeah, I'm a team player. I can fit in on this team. I have energy. I will show up every day and do the work. I have passion for what I'm doing. I'm curious and willing to learn, right? Nobody wants to hire somebody, and this is an issue with people at a certain age. People think can't teach an old dog new tricks, which has been proven scientifically wrong by chance there. It's a small bit of trivia. But you want to show up. You want to show up as if you're going to be a positive addition to the team. If I did you see? I don't know what somebody put in there, but and where do you see yourself in 3 years? It's a trick question, maybe in the fact that they don't want you to say working for somebody else. But you see yourself growing in the position into a place where you learn more about the company and see how you can contribute even further for the business, right? And all of these questions, including this question here, why did you leave your last job, are personal. Everybody has their own personal story about it, reason about it, events that happen about it. And so, especially this job, you need to talk to somebody at a career force. And that's where that list that Lana's going to send you comes in handy. If it was not necessarily a comfortable situation, when you answer this question, you don't want that to come across, right? It could be, you never say you were fired. You never say that you lost the job, or you could involuntary separation. I would work on that a bit. Talk to somebody at your career force center. Sometimes it could be a reorganization, a reprioritization of tasks. Job is outsourced is great. People understand that. It's right that you shifted to a different city, right? Those are all more positive than saying that you were fired or that you decided to lay off. Right? Yeah, layoff with some explanation, like why did the layoff happen? Lana, there was somebody who put in the thing that we weren't answering their question.
It depends on who it is. I didn't see that. I do have all the questions here. And as I affirmated in the chat, we were going to address all of them. Or did you want to go over the questions now?
I'll do the post interview and then we'll do questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So you want to make sure if they ask about references that you contact your references, right? And if you do an in-person interview, part of the information that you take or your portfolio should always be a copy of your references. Also, if you do an in-person interview, You should always take at least 5 copies of your resume and your cover letter. A friend of ours got a job because she showed up for an interview and they said, "I'm sorry, we have to reschedule. Our system was down. Nobody got copies of your resume or cover letter. So we weren't able to review them before the date." And she said, "I have 5 copies. Would that be helpful?" They were overjoyed. Not only were they able to interview her as planned and it didn't upset their schedule, it showed that she was prepared and she had attention to detail. So if when you do an in-person interview, take copies of your resume, your cover letter, at least 1 or 2 copies of your references, and any work samples that you think are appropriate to show. But after your interview, contact your references and make sure your references are relevant to the job that you're applying for, that they know about the skills that were asked for in the job posting. Make sure you always ask them ahead of time. And then after the interview, send them a copy of the job posting, the resume, and the cover letter that you sent. And in the body of the email, highlight the types of questions that you were asked so they'll know what to prep for, right? Then always send a thank you note. And in the thank you note, you can recap what was talked about in the interview. You can use it as another opportunity to sell yourself again. Maybe mention something that you didn't think about till after the fact. It can be an email, a card, a letter. It could be both. An email is immediate. A card or a letter might not be so immediate, but it's more remembered. People trash emails, right? But if it's a pretty picture, they might put it up in their office, right? You will put yourself 5 steps above anybody else who's interviewed, unless they've taken this workshop and they listened, who does not send an email. 85% of people do not send thank you notes. So it's one way to shine over and above how you already shined in the interview process. So please send a thank you note. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and answer questions.
Okay, thank you. So I do think I have a collection of the questions, and I see we have 6 minutes, so I'll try to use that. The one thing is you aforementioned that you were blue, and so that did
No,
spark
I'm
some.
green. Somebody else said they were blue.
Okay, somebody said they were blue, and I believe somebody was asking, how do you know what color you are? So that's just.
It's a boiled down Myers-Briggs assessment called True Color. And you're either orange, yellow, orange, gold, blue, or green. And it's somewhere along the line you got an assessment. You can Google assessments online, and some of them are free, some of them are bananas, BS, but they might give you ways to talk about strengths and weaknesses.
So I will share that is it Indeed? Indeed actually has some information. If you want to go on to Indeed, it does speak to that.
Oh, cool.
For the color test, and it does have the information about Myers-Briggs, but Myers-Briggs generally does cost money to take that as an indicator.
Right.
But they do address that, and it breaks down the different colors. So I'm gonna just throw that in the chat. Probably won't remember to put that in the in the follow communication. So let me see if I can put a note to maybe try to remember to put that in there. But anyway, so it is in the chat. If you can grab it out of there, that would be great, because I cannot figure out where I want to put it. Then the next question, there was a couple of questions as it pertains to salary. And I thought we were going to address that, but one question was, are they allowed to ask us about salaries? So, and then how do we negotiate salary? So basically, we can probably tell you how to negotiate salary in this very brief time, but there's a website for salary negotiations, like salary.com. It tells you that. You also can use Glassdoor. It'll tell you, you can put in information there and you can pull out what the salary is, and you can use ONET, which will allow you to see what the salary is in our area. Sorry, Sandra.
No, that's fine. But just
Go
one
ahead.
more thing about salary is that if they don't say anything about salary, you don't bring it up. That's something that you do when you have an offer. You do not bring that up in an interview because that moves the focus from you getting this job because you want money versus you want this job as a contributor to the business. All right. So if they don't say anything about it in the interview, don't bring it up.
That's excellent. I'm gonna put a heart on that. Definitely make sure that it's initiated by the employer. Perfect. I love it. On the next question, I'm gonna try to group these two questions together. Says they asked, someone stated they was asked to describe something that went wrong, which to me is similar to tell me about a time when you failed or tell me about something else. And then somebody also asked, do you have a list of common interview questions so we can prep? So there will be in the communication, the follow communication, there'll be some interview questions there. And that question, I would say the one that says something went wrong, it's going to be a similar question to that also in there. Someone asked a very personal question. I did communicate to them directly. I still need their location to determine resources for a CAM because it varies by location, so they can contact us directly.
Right. And it wouldn't be a time you failed. It's a time where you had a challenge in your job, right? So always when responding to those questions, change those negative words into positives.
Perfect. What about companies who want to hire? This one I'm not quite sure. You can help me with this, Anderson. What about companies who want to hire the person, not the job? They sometimes specifically ask about who you are outside of work. I have an answer, but go ahead.
No, you go ahead. What's your
So
answer?
basically, as Sandra already aforementioned, when they call you into the interview, they've already determined that you're eligible. And the main part of the interview is to determine if you're a good fit for them and if you're a good fit for, and if they're a good fit for you. So it is all about whether or not they like you. Unfortunately, that's factual. We know that's what the interview is for. They already know that according to your resume, you're qualified. So now they got to see if you're a good fit. So that's normal. They do want the person that's going to come in and be a good fit and not, not be negative and things of that nature. Please advise location. We did that. Blah blah blah.
So my take is also again, remember KISS. Keep it simple, sister. Right. So they're not asking like I wouldn't say that I spent time volunteering at my faith community or that I'm a delegate for a political convention. I would say that I love going to opera. I read it. I love spending time reading. Things like that, general things, not things that would help them answer questions that they can't ask.
Good. It says, doesn't that seem deceptive? If your strengths are analytical, loyalty, and something, and I don't understand that question. If you can
But you
read.
know what? You could use Strength Finders. So if you took Strength Finders and they want you to say something about yourself, you could use those Strength Finders, your top 4 or 5 Strength Finders, and talk about that. Or even talk about that as a strength.
Okay, it is right at 11. It was just somebody asking about if you are not giveaway. If we are not to give away our age, are we still to put our graduation year? No, you absolutely would not put your graduation year on your diploma. You would simply put completed. So I can answer that real quick. And it's just 2 more. The one was looks like you use plagiarism, which is you learned in school not to do. So I'm thinking they're referring to the
the AI.
Well, you already went over how you have to make it personal, so you're definitely not plagiarizing them, and you're not giving them anything in writing. And there's a big thing about GTP chat and plagiarism, and it's going through the course that hasn't been finalized. So we definitely don't have an answer because the course don't have an answer about that. But you're not writing anything out anyway. And then I see somebody also mentioned that along with GTP chat, that Google have a software that does the same thing, and it's called Gemini. That was good information that they shared out because it's not just GPT chat by
Right. No, there are multiple.
AI.
If you just Google AIs to help with job search, you'll get a bunch. And sometimes it's fun to do more than one to see the difference of opinion because it's just an opinion, right? It was programmed by a human being. It scrapes based on commands, coding, right? And it's all different. So check it out.